At this point, I'm approaching almost a decade being an entrepreneur. And there's one thing that I've seen time and time again. There are so many entrepreneurs that work for such long hours. They're so passionate about their businesses, but their revenue stuck and they're not going anywhere. And I always ask myself the question, why is this? And it's because they don't understand how the top 1% focus. In this video, I'm going to go over the 3 main principles of how the top 1% focus. First, we're going to discuss how important it is to recognize the difference between micro and macro focus. Then we're going to talk about how elimination is better than addition. And lastly, we're going to explore the most important part of the puzzle, which is accountability. So when we're discussing the first principle here, which is the difference between micro and macro focus. So if you want to succeed as an entrepreneur, if you want to truly focus like the top 1%, you need to understand that micro focus is how you focus hour to hour. So every single hour that passes by, that hour to the next hour is an example of micro focus. So for example, I'm sitting on my laptop right now, right? I'm standing actually, right? If I'm supposed to be doing a task and then I get distracted, I go to Twitter, or I start checking my emails, or and I'm doing I'm checking Slack, so on and so forth. That is an example of me being unfocused on a micro scale. But there's also the macro scale. I put micro twice. The macro scale is when you have a multiplicity of businesses. So these are multiple businesses. It can be multiple offers. So offers. It can also be multiple funnels, etc., etc. Right? So when you have basically your focus split on a wider scale, right, between businesses, between offers, between funnels, between teams, that is the micro example. Now, most entrepreneurs that are starting out have this problem. They simply don't work enough. But if you're an entrepreneur that's been working a lot, I mean, I've consulted with entrepreneurs that are working 12, 13, 14, 15 plus hour days, and they still are stuck at the same revenue that they've been at for months, sometimes even years. That means that you have a macro focus problem, right? Although sometimes you think you have a macro focus problem, but it's just micro. Like you're just sitting there for 16 hours a day putting out fires, right? So a very good example to give here that I love giving is the to-do list of the entrepreneur, right? The to-do list of the entrepreneur basically goes like this, right? There's a few tasks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And there's basically a few hits in here, right? Let's talk, or a couple of hits, right? There's hit 1 and hit 2, right? So a hit basically is a high impact task. What the entrepreneur does is he has, the little, I need to optimize this little funnel thing and, set up this software that, I definitely will use in the future, and then make this SOP, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, your day ends. What's done? The funnel's done, the software is done, the SOP's done, but then what happens? There is, Lord, somebody called the fire department. There's a fire going on. Okay, so then the entrepreneur puts out that fire. Lo and behold, 16 hours have passed. A 16-hour workday has commenced and ended, yet the hits are still where they're supposed, like the hits aren't done at all. Like they aren't where they're supposed to be, which is at a point of completion. And then the entrepreneur wonders, it's been so many months, it's been so many years, why haven't I hit my KPIs? Why am I not growing? Why is my revenue stagnant? Because you're doing the wrong things. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how important focus on a macro level is. There is entrepreneurs on the highest scales. Look at Alex Hormozi's business partner, Sam Ovens. He shut down his cash cow business, consulting.com, which was literally like an info product, a bunch of video courses. All he was doing was selling it, but he still, he had a mastermind attached to it. He refunded everybody for the mastermind so that he could focus on his software company, which is called school.com. You might have heard of it, right? That's how important focus is on a macro. The micro is usually a lesson that you have to learn initially as an entrepreneur, right? Initially, you have these troubles actually focusing, getting off your phone, but there's apps that you can use if you want to get off, the social media. You want to be a producer, not a consumer on social media. You can download ClearSpace. There's apps like OneSec. There's a lot of different recommendations that we personally make, but these are, you could just search this shit up, right? This is a very, the micro isn't as important as the macro, right? The macro is usually where the entrepreneur gets absolutely. Hey guys, if you're resonating with the content real quick, we're hosting the free 6-week focus challenge. It's only for entrepreneurs. We're providing one-on-one professional accountability. You're going to get a dedicated coach, and we'll help you get more done in the next 42 days than you have gotten done in the past year. And we're going to do it all for free. Okay, so this is only up for a limited amount of time. If you guys are interested, I left a link in the bio down below. You can click on that link and go ahead and sign up. But there's one principle, which takes me to the second thing, which is so important to solve either of these problems, which is elimination. And elimination is as opposed to elimination, let's type that out properly, is better than addition, right? To subtract is better than to add, right? And this is a principle that is called by different people, it's given a different name by different people. Steve Jobs, I think, calls it just like no. He says no. The phrase no is the most important thing in business. Focus isn't about saying yes, it's about saying no. Alex Hormozy, for example, talks about the season of no, right? He says enter a season of no, where you're literally saying no to everything. But the principle, again, is just that you want to eliminate things as opposed to adding things, right? So you don't want to be chasing new opportunities all the time. You want to cut down all the other shit in your to-do list, right? So the funnel is gone, the software is gone, the SOP is gone, no more fires, no more 16 hours. And if you just get one hit, forget the other hit as well, right? This is just one hit today, right? One hit gets done, you probably will do more in the 2 hours that you actually did that hit. You will get more done because work is, again, the ratio between how much you put in and how much you get out. The out in business is easy for us to calculate because it is dollar signs, right? The in, you can flex about, you can tell people, oh, I work 16-hour days and, my friends know I'm the hardest working man in the planet. But we know as entrepreneurs that this is the outcome. This is the output. If this is low, if this is stagnated, if this hasn't grown, then you haven't done anything. So if in 2 hours you put something into this machine, into this ratio, where the in supersedes the out, the ratio will be as if you did more work in these 2 hours than you did in the 16 hours. Henceforth, you compressed time. You did more in 1 hour than you did in 8. That means that you will do more in 1 year than you did in 8. And by the way, I am telling you, with most entrepreneurs, the differential, the delta between these two, right? What I like to call the mental masturbation work time, which is, oh, I work 18 hours, but are you working on the right things? Versus the little amount of work. And by the way, imagine this. Imagine what will happen if you do this, right? Imagine instead of 2 hours, now you make it 4, and then you make it 8, and then it actually becomes 16. So you go from a 16 here, which is a bad 16, to a good 16. Before, you were working 8 times as fast because you were getting more done in 2 hours than 16 hours. So if the 2 becomes a 16, as opposed to your older 16, this 16 is going to make you more money in literally like a fraction of the time. I can't even do the math. But all of that happens with elimination, right? So you need to stop chasing opportunities with your business and start actually focusing on hits. And what is a hit defined by? A hit is defined by 3 things, right? Number 1, number 2, number 3. 1, customers. More, okay? If you're getting more customers, then it's a hit, okay? If you are increasing the LTV, the lifetime value of your customer, if you're doing something that'll cause your customer to stay longer or cause your customer to buy again, etc., increasing LTV essentially, very simple, then it qualifies as a hit. Or it can increase the enterprise value of the business. So this is applicable if you're looking for an exit. So a lot of SaaS companies value this. But the task that impacts preferably the most amount of these in the highest way possible is the biggest hit that you need, right? The question now is, how do you actually recognize that hit repeatably? And here's the thing, right? This is the one thing that the top 1% understand. And I want you to listen to this gentleman called Dan Henry. Dan Henry made approximately $30 million online. I consider him one of my mentors. He has amazing information online. He is an authority when it comes to business in general. And what he said once was so beautiful, I just couldn't say it better. He was talking about his client campaigns. Actually, you can watch the clip.
You never take your own advice. I've struggled with that too. It's so much easier for me to come up with a marketing campaign for a client than it is for me. It's 10 times harder. When you're so close to something, you're too close to see where you're going wrong. You have to have somebody that stands back, even if they're not as good as you. When they stand back and they look at the whole picture, they can see what's going on. They can see what's wrong.
So what Dan Henry said is, when you have 2 people, right? This is him, this is Dan, and this is the other person, right? This is, Dan's client, and then there's the third party, right? This third party can be worse than Dan, right? This third party can know less than Dan. but it's about perspective. Sometimes you're too close to something in order for you to see it, right? So when you're assessing based on these three metrics on what your hits actually are, sometimes you might be too close to your business to actually recognize the larger problem with your business, right? The thing that'll actually generate you the most amount of customers because you're just so dug deep in. So this person doesn't have to be as good as you. They don't have to be your favorite guru, right? They don't need to sell you a course. They don't need to do anything of this sort. They don't need to do any of this bullshit. All they need to do is make sure that you have the correct perspective, right? And because Dan Henry had that perspective when he was making his campaigns, his marketing campaigns for his clients, he made better campaigns for his clients than he did for himself. How? Because of perspective. And perspective is basically just another word for the third point, which is accountability. Accountability, ladies and gentlemen, is the one secret that all the top 1% entrepreneurs have, and you don't have to take my word for it. You can just listen to them.
To your point, even of alternative education in general, when you say, hey, you could learn the stuff on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. The issue that we're solving for is not that it's not a knowledge gap. The issue is an accountability gap, is that people don't do stuff.
We know what to do, but we can't do it because we don't have anyone observing us and anyone holding us accountable.
When you have someone looking at your stats, when you have accountability calls, it's like there's no running anywhere. You know what I mean?
Accountability is important because that's how you're going to get leverage. That's how you're going to get credibility. It's also how you're going to get equity. And if you have high accountability, that makes you less replaceable.
Now, if you think those names were too small for your liking, even Mark Zuckerberg had a business coach, some old lady, okay? People used to ask Mark Zuckerberg why he had a business coach, this old lady who made like a fraction of the money that Mark made, right? So Mark obviously gave the PR trained response. He was like, it's always good to learn, but he's learning to shut down all of our ad accounts. Mark, if you're watching this, please unban my Facebook ad account. But he said that it's more about the perspective. It's more about the accountability. When you have somebody working with you as a high performer, you are much more likely to achieve your goals. And again, maintain that perspective. That's the most important part. The maintenance of perspective when it comes to looking at your business and identifying the best problems or the biggest problems and the best opportunities. That's what you need accountability for. And so the way that the top 1% use accountability is in three main ways, right? So first things first, they use accountability to apply Parkinson's law or Parkinson's rule, right? Now, this isn't the disease or, the mental disorder. Parkinson's rule is basically work fits to the time that you allot to it. So for example, let's say I have HIT, right? My hit is I actually need to start advertising, right? I've been talking about this and that, and I've been, recording my videos and shit but I haven't been running any ads, right? This is what I need to do. I give myself a week, okay, 7 days to run ads. It will take me 7 days to run ads, okay? That is how long it'll take me to run these ads. Even if technically it's only a 2-hour job, work fits to the time that it is allotted. So Parkinson's law here states that these ads will take me X amount of time more. But what the top 1% do is they use this in the opposite way. So for example, Elon Musk was once on a plane, okay? He's going on this plane. There's all of his engineers are sitting there, right? And there's a huge problem that they need to solve urgently, right? So what Elon Musk does is he turns around the plane and he tells his pilot, go land at the factory. We're not leaving until we fix this problem. His engineers, smart dudes, okay? Smarter than you and me, okay? These are physicists and whatever, right? A lot of us are dropouts. These dudes said, oh, this job is going to take 6 months to fix, right? And you know what Musk said? Get it done within the next 48 hours. And they solved it within 48 hours. I don't remember what the specific problem was, but this is a true story. You can look it up, right? So they use it in reverse, right? And the same thing happened in my business, right? I had basically a head of content, basically the person who manages this content. And I was saying, oh, like right now, obviously, we need, I'm allocating resources, we have a certain fund. I want to put more money in here and blah, blah, blah. But if we keep the money the same, can we pump out one of these videos that I'm talking to you, right? This video. Can we pump one of these out every single day? And my director was like, no, we can't. It takes too long. It takes me at least, 2-3 days to make a good one. And then I was like, let's try it in one. And he was like, it's not going to be as good. This is what I did, okay? Number one, I put an equity incentive Okay. I said, if there was a long form video produced at optimal, and by the way, my director does have equity in the business already, but I gave him more of an equity incentive. I said, if you can pump out these videos within one day, every single day, for every week that you do it, I will give you X amount of equity. And guess what? Started getting done. Hopefully it's still getting done. If you're watching this video, you can go to my channel, see day. If that's happening, that means I was successful. Otherwise, I failed. Dislike and unsubscribe. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is the secret. But you know what the more scary solution is? The more scary solution is equity loss. And this is what I use for myself, okay? So if I do not work on hits in the time that I work, I need to work 7 cabs, and cabs are a whole different system. Again, we have like all these different systems that implement effortlessly into an entrepreneur's work cycle to basically multiply it 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 fold, right? We've done it for a lot of entrepreneurs, but this is the cab system is one of them, right? It's basically like an hour, right? So just think of a cab as an hour. I had to do 7 of these every single day, only working on hits that I've pre-decided. Only working on hits that I have pre-decided, or I lose equity. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the activation of Parkinson's law, okay? I have to work on these hits. I have to get these hits done. And you know what else you can use to actually implement Parkinson's law? Deadlines. Ooh, an entrepreneur that has deadlines, who would have thought, right? A deadline is the simplest way. An equity deadline, which is basically essentially everything I just mentioned before, is the simplest way in which you can enact Parkinson's law. The second thing that you can use accountability to do and Parkinson's law to do is literally just work more. You can start working more. If that's what you want, you can start working more. You can start working less. The most important part is you will ultimately get more done for the time that you put in. The lever, you know, if you want to talk about the core, like the fundamental principle that leverage is, everybody in business is like, oh, leverage. Do you know where leverage comes from? It's about the length of the lever, the ease, right? The ease at which you can push down here and what you can lift here. So Archimedes, the scientist, who's historically renowned for basically the principles that he developed in terms of leverage, all the formulas, so on and so forth. He even found a way to calculate volume, etc., etc. He said, if you give me a lever long enough, right? It just has to be long enough. I can move the earth, okay? So look, guys, it all works out. My drawing's absolutely beautiful, right? Now we have the earth here and we have Archimedes here. It's just about the length of the lever, right? You are talking about how hard you're pushing down, right? You're like, 16 hours, easy. You know, I'm a David Goggins motivation listening entrepreneur, right? But you don't understand that the length of the lever is dependent on, number one, how accountable you can keep yourself to what? Eliminating, so that you can focus only on hits that affect your business on a macro level. I'm trying to tie all this in so you can get more. You don't even need to push as hard. If you want to, if you're addicted to it, I love it. I am too. I just can't stop work. I love it, right? I got nothing else to do, right? Otherwise, you have to face the meaninglessness of life, but that's a philosophical topic, right? So if you like doing 16 hours, that's fine. But if you're doing 16 hours and then your cash is not even there, your revenue is stagnated, then this, right? This, you pushing down on the lever isn't the problem. It's the length of the lever, and that's what you need to fix. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like the content, like the content. If you didn't like the content, don't like the content. I have some other videos coming out soon, hopefully. And yeah, if you like this video, you're probably going to like the video that I recorded. Let's see, what video will you like? I think you'll like why you should shut down your business's video. That one is an amazing video. So go ahead and watch that one. If not, apologies for not providing enough value. Have a nice day.